Yeah, so I'm the lead biologist over here at the Vermont Institute of Natural Science. We're a nonprofit nature center down in Quechee, Vermont. We actually were founded back in 1972 by a group of concerned residents. The Healthy Ottaquechee River, actually the river in the picture there, right in the middle, was being polluted. Towns were actually dumping raw sewage into the water. And this group of people came together. They actually sued the town. They won that. They cleaned up the river. But they realized there's some disconnect between, why was that happening? And so our mission since that has been to motivate people to care about the environment. And we do that today through our education, our research, and our avian wildlife rehabilitation. A lot of people know our educational programs. We go on the road to area schools, usually bringing Raptor with us. We have our nature center here with exhibits and daily programming. We're also embedded in schools, helping with their STEM curriculums. We also are known as a bird place, so folks know to bring their sick, ill, injured, orphan birds to us. We see about 1,000 birds every year in our rehab facility, and we have about a 40% success rate releasing them back into the wild. So we do a lot of different things. Mark touched briefly on one of our main research projects too, and that is our American Kestrel monitoring. So American kestrels, a lot of you are probably familiar with American kestrels. They are a species that is declining most severely in the Northeast, unfortunately. They're very easy to spot. They're very easy to identify, but we are losing them in the state. And so our project is to look at some of the reasons why we might be losing the species and hopefully trying to slow that decline along with some regional wide efforts as well. So most folks have probably seen an American kestrel. Very, very easy to spot. They're one species you can tell male and females just by looking at them. So we've got our males on the left, our females on the right. The males have that kind of bluish gray color, blue hat there. The females are more that orange, rusty red color. So one of the first things we ask folks is, have you seen kestrels at your property? And sometimes people say, oh, I'm not really sure. And so we give them these pictures and like, oh yeah, that's definitely what I've seen. They have a very distinct call as well. I couldn't embed that into the slideshow, unfortunately, but the killie call is very, very obvious. That really cues folks in that they've got kestrels on their property or in their area. Kestrels are a falcon, so they're North America's smallest falcon. Think of the peregrine falcon, right? Curved, pointed wings, long, thin tails, very fast flyers. These birds are catching insects and birds on the wing. They'll also go after small mice and rodents and things like that, but very, very fast with that body shape. So if you see a bird with that silhouette flying over your field, you know you've got a kestrel nearby. They've also got some really cool adaptations. They've got this, look really closely at the beak. That little notch is called a tomial tooth. And that tooth actually can, with the leverage it creates, break its prey's neck, snaps it and kills it instantly. So pretty ferocious little predators out there in the wild. They've also got the striping under their eyes. Think of ball players. They've got the paint under their eyes to keep the sun glare out. The kestrels have the same kind of thing. They're hunting in fields. They can't wear little sunglasses, so they've got those feathers there. Helps reduce the glare as they're hunting in those fields. You can see that Vermont is in their year-round range. If you want to see kestrels in the winter, though, you usually got to go to Addison County, and that's where they're pretty easily to spot in those fields along the roads and power lines and things like that. But they are considered a year-round resident here. They do migrate, so say we'll lose some of our kestrels. They'll migrate down south for the winter, and they start to come back. In our project and for our monitors, we really start looking. In some places, we start looking in February and say, just keep an eye on your box, see if there's birds coming back, if they're active nearby. This is kind of a harder to understand graphic, but if you look at this outer ring here, the darker blue, so March, April, May, and this black line here, that's when migration starts in the spring, right? So March, April, May, it peaks in this thicker line here in the middle for April. And that's when we really start to see birds come back to our area. And we ask our box monitors to start keeping an eye on the boxes, make sure they're all tidied up, ready to go for the season, and let us know if they start to see pairs come back in their area. The inner ring, that's a little bit less like a kind of a grayish color there. You can see the black lines. The outer black line is when they have eggs. So that's April, May, and kind of tails off into June. Usually April, May, we have eggs in boxes. And then the inner line for that ring, that grayish ring, you can see they have young. So from May, June, July, we have young in our boxes, and it peaks in June and July. And this year was kind of a later year. We had birds into middle of July that were still in our boxes. Just kind of a weird year for kestrels. So that's kind of the time we're looking at these boxes being active in our area, and we ask our monitors to poke in once a week if they have activity, so they can catch the egg laying date and the hatch date, and that can help us time our banding efforts. This is a map of their declines, right? So I said most severe in the Northeast, that bright red color, but declining all across their range. A few pockets of green in there. It's kind of stable, not decreasing, not increasing, but lots of red on that map. And this map is even out of date, so there's probably some updates that need to happen as well. Another way of looking at that decline, right? So you can see this ends in 2008, but a steady decline across the atlases here. And this is more specific Vermont data. Again, just there's been 2 breeding bird atlases so far in the state, and between the 2, there's been a downward trend. We're actually in the process of starting the 3rd atlas, so we'll get some more updated information, hopefully soon, on a lot of species, kestrels included, but downward trend. And there's a lot of questions as to why that is, and there's a lot of theories as to what's going on out there. But more and more, it seems like it's multiple factors that are causing these declines. When you think about Vermont and its structure, it's mostly forested at this point. We're losing a lot of farms and open areas to development and different things, and forests are coming back. So that suitable habitat is one factor. And along with that, nesting trees. These birds are secondary cavity nesters, so they're looking for dead snags with holes in them from other species that open those cavities up. And landowners sometimes cut those down, or they fall down because they're a safety issue. And so we're starting to lose a lot of good structures in what limited habitat we have left. And we're actually finding more and more that kestrels are nesting in boxes, and there's fewer and fewer natural nests that are being found. So they're really starting to rely on nest boxes, it seems. Pesticide and insecticides, these modern chemicals are more potent. They're still out in the environment. The neonics are more potent. We're starting to see rodenticides show up in our birds. Not only do those get rid of prey, right? They outright kill the rodents and bugs and things like that, but they also start to build up in the raptors, and they start having issues, fatalities, and unable to reproduce and have young. Competition with Cooper's hawks. So Cooper's hawks used to be accipiters, now they're asters. They're a different type of raptor out there that are competing for similar resources and are doing a better job. They're not outright predating on kestrels, but that does happen occasionally. So that's a species that's doing well, that's potentially limiting kestrels. Mentioned the starlings. Starlings are just a huge issue. They do take over nest boxes. They'll kick kestrels out, and they'll take over some pretty good sites. So in future years, we'll get a little bit more strict on our starling controls at our nest boxes to really knock that down as best we can. And then overall climate change, it really impacts everything, including kestrels. So it's kind of the catch-all of everything else, and then also climate change on top of that. So lots of theories is what's going on out there. And one theory is to start putting out nest boxes to see if that can help these populations. So you saw that the South Hero Conservation Commission built a bunch of boxes, which is great. They have that local knowledge of habitat. They have those landowner connections. They have the ability to get materials and build those boxes and get them out into good kestrel habitat. So these plans are fairly easy. They're not super involved, but you could put together an event like that, which is great. And then we look for suitable habitats. We're looking for about 20 to 30 acres of open habitat for these boxes. You can put them in an area as small as an acre, like an acre field around a box, as long as there's fields and other adjoining areas that make up about 20 to 30 acres of open space for these birds. We say about a half mile between boxes as well. So if you're looking at a property that's fairly big, you can put potentially more than one box on that property. You can see, agricultural areas, farms. We could put them in all sorts of places. These are just some different pictures of some successful boxes and properties we've had young at. This is the Windsor grasslands over in Windsor. Great habitat, had birds nesting there for many, many years. This is like the ideal when we're looking for a field. This is kind of what we're looking at, and having that box in the middle of a field, about 8 to 10 feet off the ground, is really all they need. This box is a little tall, but 8 to 10 feet is kind of the minimum we're looking for to get a box up. They can go on trees, although we try to discourage landowners putting them on trees. they're more at risk to predation if they're on a tree. That being said, this box has been successful for several years, so it can work. We just prefer that post in the middle of a field if possible. And that doesn't always work with landowners who need to hay or have cattle, and we understand that. So we'll definitely look at different sites and see where they can go. Side the barns too, we've had some success with boxes on barns that are not super active. So, if you're in and out every so often, that is usually not enough to disturb these birds, luckily. And so, like I said, when they start to come back, we get the females that start to use the box. The box on the right needs some bedding, you might notice. So we ask that folks put a little layer of bedding in there to make sure because they'll just lay their eggs right on the wood, and that's not always good for them. The eggs will roll around. If they do hatch, they can have leg issues with their development. So little layer of some material in there, but you can see on the left, there's a little fluff ball underneath that mom there, a little marshmallow peeking out. So we ask our monitors to go in this time of year when they're starting to lay eggs, when they start to hatch, and just get an idea of what's happening for us. And snag a picture if you can, send it our way. And that helps us time out when we need to get out there and ban these birds. Sometimes you can encounter them right as they've hatched, either the day after or 2 days after. This is a nestling that was literally hatched like that day that we happened to be at that box and check it out. We don't tell our landowners to hold the birds. Obviously, that's one of our staff doing that, but you can still see cute little dinosaur. Hopefully this video works for everybody. This year, we've actually been able to put some cameras in our nest boxes. So this is a nestling just hatched, getting fed by mom. And I hope you can hear the noise because it's adorable. And we help landowners too. If they've got a good box that has Wi-Fi, we can help them get cameras installed, which really helps with monitoring. You can see the daily development of these birds, which is pretty cool. Oh, we don't want to watch it again. So we keep an eye on their development. This is a few days, maybe even a couple weeks old on the left there. And then on the right, you can see this bird is actually starting to show that it's a male. It's got those blue feathers. So this is when we go in and band, usually around 18 days old. We try and get into the boxes. We take measurements. We pull them out of the box first, put them in another box. We weigh them. We can sex them. We can check their health. We're able to take blood, and we've actually been able to see that there's rodenticides in some of our local birds. We send those to different organizations as well. Here's a little bands. We do put field readable bands on them as well, so landowners can keep an eye on them as they come back and all that. There's the banding process, taking blood, and we see that mom comes right back after we band our bird, so it doesn't interrupt what's going on. We take standardized pictures of all of our birds, and I'll actually flip through to this female was actually the bird in South Hero. So first time use, the nest didn't fledge, unfortunately. We think she was a younger mom. And so, but we're hoping she'll come back next year because she is banded and we'll know. Yeah, so ways that conservation commissions can get involved in this, we have educators can come out and do programming about kestrels. They often bring a live kestrel with them, talking about our project, talking about how you can get involved. But then you can see just getting those landowner connections, building boxes, and helping monitor is really, really helpful for us. So with that, I think I wrapped up in a minute. So
thanks so much, Jim.
Yeah.
So awesome to see the connection between what Mark shared and really the engagement that South Hero had from the community in building those boxes, and then your connection to the work of bins and really doing the American Kestrel Project. Do folks have questions for Jim? And again, feel free to throw them in the chat. We've had a pretty active chat today. So Mead is asking, can conservation commissions reach out to you, Jim, to see how they can best get involved if they know landowners or are interested in hosting an event?
For sure. Yeah, I'll share my email in the chat. You can just email me directly and we can get you connected.
That's great. I know, yeah, the event in South sounds like the event in South Hero with having the Kestrel there was really engaging for the community. Really awesome to have that connection.